Welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast.
Well, it's not exactly brand new anymore, is it?
Welcome to Freshly Grounded, the podcast.
That's better.
Created by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded.
After that bit.
Created by
After that bit.
best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone to Freshly Grounded, episode 242. It's a live stream, so forgive us. I think we're like 10 minutes late, and it's always a bit odd with a live stream because there's always something going off or something going weird, and then you just think to yourself, well, why don't you just schedule it for 10 minutes later? Like every time there's issues with live streams, and it's always about 10 minutes. So rather than saying we're going live at 6, just say 6:10. Well, the problem with that would be that then we would just be 6:20. It's just an ongoing cycle of disorganization. But alas, we have arrived. And we have Fawaz here producing because we've got current events live stream next as well. It's pandemonium here in the studio. We're doing Freshly Grounded live episode, current live stream, and then straight after it's going to be a live stream of current events in the exact same studio. So we have we're going to have like a 5-minute window or less to basically switch all the cameras around, switch the producer desk around and everything. We have with us today the now regulars, Tariq and Abdul Rahman. Come in, feel free. You are coming right now. They were just praying their salah. So, assalamu alaikum. Oh, you have your coffee and everything. Yes. Abdul Rahman, is there any chance that you could grab my phone? My phone is in that room somewhere. Yeah, maybe I'll just cream where it is. No, okay, get it. Thank you, bro. So I was just introducing the you're live.
Nice.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Do you mind turning your lights on, bro?
Yeah, sure.
Everyone's just seeing the raw FG. How are you? Your coffee looks like it needs a bit of a mix.
A mix.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
to
there was a stirrer, right?
Yeah, I put the stirrer there.
Oh, yeah. I assumed it was already mixed, so I just threw it out.
You can use mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't drunk.
I think we're close enough.
Yet. Yeah. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that, Abdul Rahman. Yes, Jazakallah khair. How are you, by the way, Abdul Rahman?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, bro. Jazakallah khair.
Today's been the weather's been up and down today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like their brother was saying earlier, like the rain is like hot rain. Like it's like smelly, like the acidy kind of smelly rain.
Yeah.
So Abdul Rahman, just move a chair a bit. Oh yeah. Scooch up.
Yeah, and just chuck that water on just next to you. So there we have it.
How was your football game, by the way, last week?
Oh, actually, after the podcast. Yeah, it's good. Obviously, I'm a goalkeeper, as you guys know.
Nice. Yeah.
Just made a couple saves here and there.
You playing goal?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you mentioned
No.
last time. I think.
Oh, you said
That was
you
my
had your
second.
goalkeeper trousers.
I had my goalkeeper
yeah.
trousers on.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Goalkeeper
Now
trousers
I'm
for playing
making-
out front.
I'm matching the dots.
Yeah.
now.
How have you guys? So you thought I was wearing goalkeeper trousers, but I was playing striker.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just didn't make. I didn't make the connection.
Fine. How are you guys? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, good
alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. How's your internship, Tariq?
Alhamdulillah, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another day. It's the same thing.
Really?
To be honest.
Yeah. What do you know? What's an interesting debate? Because like obviously your internship, and I keep saying this to Tariq, it's like your internship, you're going in, right? So what do you guys think about the whole working from home versus coming into the office, and like employers, like what flexibility they should? I don't want to put you in a sticky position. But like, what do you guys think about that? Because I find it quite interesting. I've seen quite a few debates on Twitter about it.
I think when it comes to like software engineering and just technology in general.
Like this is your third episode of Freshly Grounded. You have way better microphone discipline than that. I know.
Yeah. Is that fine?
You're letting the team down. You're right up close.
You should know better.
to these
Man.
words,
Yeah. Yeah, with like software engineering and technology in general, I think in general, working from home should become the new norm. There's just no need, really.
Semi-flexible or like fully?
What do you mean when you say semi-flexible?
Like,
as in the option
there's quite a few like takes. So one take is the office is here. You can come in. Like it's open. You have a desk. Like you can come in any day, or you can work home.
Yeah.
Or some people have like like fixed days, like 1 or 2 days of the week you'll come in, and then 3 days a week at home, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, do you think it's completely remote?
I think there are some things that would need to be done in person, or are just a lot better in person.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think you lose, especially if you're in like a startup kind of environment where a lot of innovation and thinking is happening? Do you think you're losing a lot of
like that sort of collaborative?
And this is for both of you. Like, do you guys think it's do you lose a lot of that? The WeWork, would they sell it? The WeWork magic was like this like crazy ecosystem environment where you can like bounce off ideas with each other, and
that stuff definitely is better in person. I mean, we did Pillars like all remote.
Yeah, we're remote first startup, right?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. But then with Eden, so the other project like I'm working on.
Yeah.
Is that fine?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll
the other
Mike's
project.
your best friend.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. But when we started working on that properly, that was during lockdown, and so that was completely remote. But then once lockdown started like lifting, we decided to meet up in person a few times. And when we were meeting up in person, going to uni, working on it in person, it was just so much better. It was just a nicer vibe in general as well.
I'm very right now the way things work in the Freshly Grounded office, but this is I think also because we have an incredibly small team is that it is very flexible. There's a lot of trust with the fact that you have your tasks and you're going to get your work done, and so sometimes it's a surprise who's in the office. Sometimes it's packed, sometimes it's completely empty, and I'm the only one. And we've never had any issues with it. But you got to bear in mind that, and when people need to be in, they come in. So, for example, packages need to be shipped every day of the game. Production needs to be done and stuff like that. So everyone knows their tasks and they get it done. And for the most part, I've never experienced a situation actually when someone's like missed their like schedule or something. I guess I don't know too much about like the packaging side of things because I don't concentrate on that. There is one thing with that where if you do miss packaging the game, there is an issue because we'd have to cancel. Royal Mail come every day to collect, and so we'd have to cancel the collection, and then they're not happy with that if we on the same day are like, oh sorry, we didn't package in time because they make arrangements to come every day. That's a kind of issue, but other than that, there's not really. As long as everybody's kind of on job with their own stuff, there's never really any issues. However, there's two things that come to mind where I would say that it could be quite a bit of an issue. One is that I've read this statistic once that said something about people being less productive when they work from home. I think especially in the corporate world where people, if you have the kind of culture that people are just coming to work to get paid, why would they? They would obviously take advantage of working from home. Productivity levels would be much lower. They were statistically, there were and stuff like that. But I suppose if everybody was like the perfect Muslim, you're under contract, you have to be working your hardest and so on and so forth. So if that was the case, maybe it'd be a bit better. And the second point was that it was productivity was less, and bugging me. Oh yeah, there's this theory that exists. I can't remember the name of the theory, but I mentioned it a few episodes back. And it's like it's not a theory. It's like it was originally a hypothesis, and then it got proven to be correct. I think, and it's that you get your task done in the hours that you've been given to get it done.
You're talking about Parkinson's law.
Okay,
Parkinson's law.
Fine, it's a law.
Parkinson's law.
Is it?
Parkinson's law is the concept that essentially tasks take the amount of time you give them. So if you
to fill.
Yeah, exactly. So I was actually talking to my brother about this. Was I talking to him or was I talking about him? I can't remember. To my mum, don't worry.
I gave him 10 hours to do
and he only did it in 11.
The reason I bring that up is because I feel like he could like do very well from compartmentalizing his time. Because anyway, let me explain what it is first of all. So essentially, it means if you say you have a job to do and you say I'm going to do this in like I'm going to give myself the day to do it, it will take the day. And if you say that I've got an outing in like 2 hours, so I need to get this done before then, most likely you'll actually be able to get it done before then. And the more surprising thing is you probably get it done to the same quality. So it's this idea that we really should, rather than saying, oh, we're going to do this thing today, and this is one of the problems with like to-do lists, right, where you've got like things that you want to do, but what you actually really need to do to improve your productivity is to actually allocate them time. So say, okay, between 1 and 2 I'm going to do X, and 2 and 3 I'm going to do Y. And I think a lot of this is becoming quite popular. There's a calendar app that's in beta that I'm using these days that allows you to do this, and lets you like it's what they call like block management sort of timetable, and I do think it's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive, but it does actually make things a lot better. Scooch up. Yeah.
There's a camera issue there, so I think now we've all fallen off.
You got up and like the mic just fell completely.
I know we've all gone out of complete flow. The Parkinson's law is the one that I was talking about. So I guess what I'm saying is you'd have to, as long as there's a great work culture and a lot of trust, then be as flexible as you want.
Yeah.
And that comes back to what we were saying last week about like just firing people who are just not up to par. If you can't trust them to work from home and get the task done as fast as possible, or not as fast as possible, but as efficiently as possible, then I suppose like why are you in my team? Yeah,
that's another startup philosophy: hire slowly, fire quickly, or something like.
That's how I read.
What is it?
The guy who owns Netflix.
Reed something. Hoffman.
No, it's Reed.
Netflix.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Reed Hoffman is the LinkedIn.
Is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Reed.
I don't know.
Can you just Google the Netflix CEO? I always go, but anyway, their culture is really interesting.
Yeah, like especially like when you're a small startup or you're a small company or organization, like even if you're a non-profit, like this is like applicable to any sort of team building. You really, really need to think very carefully about the first few people you hire, because or bring on like volunteers, because that can make and break the whole kind of organization. And these days, I've become more aware that it's not, when you're like looking at startups, you know, like kind of thinking about whether they're going to like do well or not. More often than not, the thing that really matters is the team, as opposed to like the idea or the thing they're working on. Because if you've got a good team, you'll be able to trust them, and you know you'll be able to set, like, that team will be able to pivot if it needs to, and it'll be able to do it well. But if your team isn't good, even if the idea is great, they can't execute it as well as they should do. So yeah, I think team building, I don't know how we got onto this topic, but yeah, team building and like hiring slowly and firing quickly has a lot of wisdom behind it.
Investing in people rather than
investing in people, which is another. So like typically what do a lot of investment firms do? They look for startups, they try to identify like really good ideas, they try to find people who have like some traction, and then they invest and they kind of blow up, right? And they help them scale up to the goal for every VC and every investment firm is to get them to like $1 billion valuation, like a unicorn. But these days there's a push to do something called I think it's called talent investing. So they get people before they've even had
before they're working on a startup or
before they're working on anything. They might have an idea, but that like, it's just an idea in the back of their head. Most of us have ideas that we've like either got in our heads or we've written down on like a notes app. And so what they what they do is they essentially bring people together, technical founders and non-technical founders. They put them together, they say have a chat. And like they can literally get them into this room and they get them to like speed it. They go around, they say, pitch your idea to that person, they pitch their idea to you. Like whatever you kind of see, like do you match, like thing, and they're literally like if you don't connect in that few moments, move on to the next person. And the idea is like they get this quick matchmaking process between like CTOs and CEOs, basically technical founders and non-technical founders, and then they
for them to basically jump on a co-founder business together.
Yeah, and one of them will have an idea, and essentially they'll settle on an idea that they're working together. But the idea doesn't really matter that much, because what they end up doing is they go to like, they say, okay, we want to work in this education space. They go talk to educators and they find out what the problems educators have, which is another problem that people have when they approach startups. Like they don't think about the problem, they just like want to work on the idea. They have this idea and solution in mind, they want to start building that, but they don't actually think what I really need to be doing is actually going to these people who are like suffering from specific problems. I need to ask them specifically, what are your problems, and find out what the biggest pain point is, the one that they most regularly face, and then work on those problems. So I guess like pillars, obviously I'm going to use that as a good example, is what is the pain point? Every time you're opening your app 5 times a day to get prayer times, you're getting an ad coming up. How annoying is that, right? And so it was quite an easy kind of alternative. Like people are obviously going to select something that isn't going to have that pain point of getting an ad, waiting like 10, 15 seconds or paying for it, right? So that's like and it's a regular thing. Like the best problems to work on are the ones that are regular, because you're opening your phone multiple times a day to check the prayer times. you're going to have that problem multiple times, and you're going to kind of face that problem regularly. And so people are invested in like trying to avoid that because they're facing it so often. So yeah, again, I'm not sure how we got onto this, but
I think you asked the
You know
question
what?
about work from home.
Yeah, you asked. Yeah, It was-
yeah, but I don't know how we
started on
like
that.
how did we spin off?
Do you know what's so funny? I was gonna say that, like, I was gonna say right at the beginning of the podcast is, can we test ourselves to have an episode without talking about tech or big tech
Ooh.
or something like that? I think it's impossible. We'll start off.
No,
some-
no,
some
I-
business.
I feel like
I
maybe
felt-
for the rest of it we can.
No, I think
try,
we
yeah.
can just have that in mind. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm conscious that, like,
Not
I wonder
everyone.
what percentage of our listeners are genuinely interested. It'd be
Yeah.
good because this is the best time to ask because we're on live stream.
I mean that
So
was the
those
first
watching-
thing
Yeah,
my
let
mum
us know.
said. Like when I asked, "Oh, how did you find that episode?" She was like, "Oh yeah, it was good, but there was a
Yeah.
tech talk."
yeah, we should
No,
switch it up.
No. I went to my mum. I found her listening to our podcast in the kitchen. And I was like, oh, I don't know if you enjoy that one. We talk about like Apple and Google a lot. And she was like, yeah, I like to know what they're up to. And so I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Like I would have not assumed that demographic would like be very interested in it. But she was. And I was like, oh,
Demographic
that
being our
ma-
mums.
yeah, like would mums be interested in like what's going to make Google fail and Apple succeed? But yeah.
That was a very interesting discussion, to be honest.
Yeah, it was.
I had a few
yeah.
discussions post that podcast.
Really?
About that, yeah.
Like jumping off that one. Or...
Yeah. Because of the kind of the whole hardware software conversation. But anyway, let's go into it.
I think we can definitely move off tech for today.
Should we for a complete conversation like starter go with a freshly grounded game because we've never
could
played it
do,
together.
yeah.
Go on.
I think we have it.
Can get deep very quickly though, can't
This
it?
is just the box. This is just a
There's
display.
the cards there, right?
You got. Oh, there we go.
There you are. Yeah, because we got two versions of it.
The Ramadan one as well, right?
No, sorry.
Oh.
We got two versions of like the normal one, like the old version, and then we have like the updated one.
It's really good, like when you're going on holiday with your friends.
Have any of you guys played?
Me and my brother.
So, oh,
Go
you
ahead,
first.
go for it.
That sounded like. Do you know what that sounded like? Like that sounded like when like you're in court or something and they ask for a yes or no answer and like there was
Plead the
you don't understand the context of the situation. Did you play the game? It's yes or no. It was I was feeling pressure at the time. I didn't have access to the internet. Have you played the game?
So me and my friends, it's become a running joke now. Like I told them about it after the first podcast, like when you gave it to us, and I told them, and they said like, "Oh, this sounds so cool. Next time we're out for like chai or something, bring it." And I just keep on forgetting. We've met.
Do you
up-
have it? Or did I give it to you?
Yeah, you gave it to
Oh,
both
okay.
of us. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
But I just keep on forgetting. We desperately need to play it.
Have you
It's
played
really-
Abdul Rahman?
Me and my brother went through them.
Okay.
Like to see
So
what
we
else-
have two losers here joining us. No,
We
joking.
lost the game.
But I haven't had an opportunity to do it, to be honest.
That's all right. Here's how
I'm a
we'll
bit
do it.
scared though.
So there's
Yeah, no, because I've seen the questions. Go on.
There's it's really up to us how we play it. There's not many rules. What I would suggest is should we split the card? Shall I split the deck 3 ways, and then you can shuffle your own ones. Or
I didn't realize. Sorry, I might be completely ignorant. I thought it was just you put it and you like shuffle it and you take the top and then you kind of read it and everyone has to like answer it.
Well, there's no rules, so that could be a way of playing it. Of course,
because when you said game, I was like, oh, I didn't realize there's like an instruction like specific.
there isn't. So that's what I mean. Like I played with people where it's like you split the deck and you ask half. I played it where like one person has it and everybody in the room answers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I played it where like it's like you ask the person on the right. So there's really no rules. But I'd say for the sake of like some kind of simplicity here, let's just split the deck 3 ways, and then you can choose who you want to ask your question to. So I'll start. I personally don't want to answer too many questions just because I think the Freshly Guided audience would love to get to know you guys more than me. I mean, they've got to know me over the past 5 years. They're probably sick of me.
I doubt it. If they're still listening to you.
I'm actually gonna curate it by not going random.
Okay.
So I can.
I haven't shuffled.
My heart's racing.
Yeah. Can we skip or are we not allowed to?
You're not allowed to. That makes it more interesting.
Can we have like thinking time for the answer?
You can have thinking time. I know who I want to ask, and I guess I just trying to find the best question to ask. So let me see. I feel like I've been handed a bad.
Do you want to swap?
No, it's fine. Okay, this is good. Oh, this is a great one, especially for the person I want to ask it to.
Go on.
I feel like this is a question that this person's never been asked, nor would they ever imagine answering it, nor would they imagine answering it in front of thousands of people live.
Okay, that's
Tariq,
Oh no.
tell me one of your anxieties or worries. Let's talk it out. You seem quite introverted.
I am very introverted.
So this must be a
No.
difficult question.
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, this is the weird thing because like everyone who I told, like, because I'm quite into. Have you heard of MBTI?
No.
No.
So it's like a personality type. Test
Oh,
sort
okay.
of thing.
Yeah. I do. I have
Yeah.
the 16 personalities.
Yeah, 16 personalities.
But you're MBTI, are you? Is that your personality?
No,
thing?
MBTI is the name of 16 personalities.
Oh, is
As
it?
in
Okay,
that whole thing, Myers-Briggs
Fine.
type indicator. But anyone who I told like that I'm an introvert, like a lot of the time they seem surprised. But I'm definitely. I think. I'm
You're
definitely an
definitely an introvert.
introvert. Yeah. Would you say you're an introvert?
No. Because being an introvert, I think there's misconceptions with introvert extrovert.
It doesn't mean that you hate like talking to people.
it's
and it doesn't mean that you're not confident.
What
does
Because
it
you're
mean?
very confident.
All right, so explain it because I like staying at home a lot, but I'm not an introverted person.
You're definitely not an introvert.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so
you're
it-
100%.
so it's-
I know your type. You haven't even done the test, but I know your MBTI.
Go
You're
on,
definitely an
tell-
ENTJ. Do you know
I
your
think
type?
that's. I think I am.
you're an
I
ENTJ?
think I think I'm an ENTJ. I done it so long ago.
Wait, but can you explain
Yeah.
like what would you? How do you define introvert and extrovert?
So introvert and extrovert, it's purely down to like where you gain energy or where you expend energy. So an extrovert, they gain energy by interacting with other people and being like sociable and talking to other people. Whereas an introvert, they expend energy by doing that, and it's tiring for them. So it's like, say after this conversation, I'm probably gonna have to like, nap for 2 days.
I don't know. That makes it difficult. I thought. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you need to answer the
Yeah.
question.
So what was the question again? Tell me about.
Your
It says,
anxiety.
tell me one of your anxieties and worries. Let's talk it out.
Yeah. I feel as if I can be, like, I'm worried that perhaps I'm a bit boring. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
It's like when it comes to conversations and stuff like that, like say in a conversation like this, like sometimes I worry, okay, am I, like, do I have much to
interesting.
actually input?
I think you're suffering from spotlight effect.
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
What is
I
the
mean,
spotlight effect?
So spotlight effect is like you have a perception that people are focusing on you a lot
Yeah.
more than they probably are. Like, so for
I feel like that in the gym.
the classic, the classic example is like if you're, let's say, like if you're like maybe not doing a specific movement as much, or like, sorry, you're not doing like an exercise properly. You might like like, oh my god, everyone's like watching me, like they're gonna see like I'm gonna squat so badly, like my form's gonna be off. That personal trainer's gonna come over and tell me off.
Yeah.
All of that,
But
like
the
all
reality is
that,
only
that
you're
like,
thinking of that.
yeah, in the back of your mind. Whereas in reality, everyone's just getting on with what they're doing. Everyone just wants to like do the gym.
Well, they're probably
get home.
thinking the same thing, but about themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what? It's so
Yeah.
interesting is that
That's what
I often talk about this idea, but I've never known that there's a label to it, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Tariq, let's not avoid the conversation though. Let's go back to it.
I was hoping we could segue. Can we talk about tech instead?
Why boring though? Do you feel like you don't have you have so much to give? So I'm wondering where the boring thing comes from.
I don't know if I
Yeah,
do.
I'm
necessarily.
surprised. That's an interest. Like, that's why I said spotlight effect, because I've never ever thought that.
I appreciate that, but I don't know.
I also think you have. Do you think that you have a sense of humor or a good sense of humor?
I think I do.
You think you have a good sense of humor?
He's
Do you
big on
think
his
I do?
memes.
You think
I love
you have,
memes.
you think you have a good sense of humor? No, joking. I
What's
was
your
gonna say, I
opinion?
think you have
He
a great
loves
sense
his
of humor.
he loves his
Appreciate it.
memes.
Yeah,
I do love memes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm-
good.
I'm hoping so. Like, in case anyone's noticed, like I'm off Twitter at the moment. But as soon as we launch the Android widget for Pillars, I've got a
He's-
meme lined up. I'm ready.
He's got this specific widget that
why
he's
are
got
you off
ready.
Twitter right now?
Just I feel like social media is not for me.
It's a cleanse.
Temporarily.
Temporarily, permanently, I don't know. I've done like social media detox, I guess you
Okay.
could call it,
Have
in the past, and I love it.
Have any of you read the book, The Fiqh of Social Media?
No, that's not interesting.
Oh, fine. Right. Well, because I wanted someone to tell me a bit more about it.
Oh, you haven't.
Someone recommended it to me, and I was very interested in like what it said. But what you said like once to me before was like the idea of like trying to use social media as a tool rather than like letting it take over you. So like
it's
you
a
being in
vehicle.
control of it rather than it being in control of you
Yeah.
is actually really important.
And that's what I'm planning on doing, I guess. Like, I've deleted the apps, and the plan is like once I have something that's worth tweeting about, say with Pillars, like say if there's a feature or something, then I'll probably like log in on browser and just tweet about it.
Yeah, like
But as for like compulsive scrolling, they call it like doom scrolling.
Doom
As for just
scrolling.
using it to like pass time, I don't need it.
that's you know what's a really good tip that I used to do and then I stopped doing it, but when I did it, it was really good, and I saw someone else tweeting about it. Is giving every device its own purpose. So what they would do is, and I used to do this, where I would never ever check Twitter on my computer, on my laptop, ever. Like the only time I would check Twitter is on my phone. And so it would feel weird if I opened up Twitter on my computer. And it gives everything its defined moment. Because what I do is during the day when I'm working, I actually usually, like, especially when I'm studying, I like to have my phone off, like turned off completely. And so I wouldn't ever feel that compulsion to go on Twitter because I just don't do that. Like, I don't open Twitter on this. It sounds a bit weird to explain it, but genuinely, like, giving everything, like, for example, maybe watching YouTube videos just for, like, your iPad, and just, like, assigning everything its own role and its own purpose. Yeah. And it works really well for a while, actually.
Tim Ferriss's productivity hacks in that he doesn't have email on his phones. He doesn't have any email apps on his phone. It's like there's a very hard and fast, there's a very strict rule of his. I have a question for you guys, actually. What do you guys think of speaking out your goals or intentions for the sake of what is it called, accountability? So I'm on a 3-month diet. Yeah. And so for the next 3 months, I'm doing this. And the reason I'm saying it's for accountability versus
overshowering. Maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what do you guys think about that versus keeping it to yourself and just working on it privately? Because I find that the data, not data, but like the expert advice on it seems to be split down the middle.
Yeah. I mean,
some say you like have an accountability partner. Or there's so much advantage in not even accountability partner, but like just by saying it out loud. There's even a term for it, but by even saying it out loud, you're now affirming it, and therefore you hold yourself accountable even.
Yeah.
I want to know your guys' opinions before I give you mine.
Well, that's mentioned in Atomic Habits.
Exactly what to say
about like saying it out loud. But I've done research into this as well. Like I watched a video and I read some articles, but they say that by telling people about, say, your ambition or your goals, you actually set yourself up for failure more often than not, because you get the same like satisfaction as if you were to actually achieve those goals.
Bro, explain that again.
I think it's an amazing concept. I think Dale Carnegie speaks about it in one of his books as well.
Probably.
Bro, so basically, and I'm of this opinion as well. I'm against like and I do it all the time because I'm a talker, but I'm against it. First of all, we all got to bear in mind that in a sunnah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like that hadith about not talking about your intentions all the time, or not talking about your plans, right? Also knowing about the fact that the evil eye is so prominent and stuff like that. But so that should be enough for us anyway as Muslims. Yeah. However, I believe it's Dale Carnegie who says that, but it might be someone else, that they done like a psychology study or something, and like by saying out loud what you're planning to do, you get instant gratification, and therefore it
reduces the novelty of when you actually do it.
No, it satisfies the urge that you had because now you've said it, so you got your instant gratification from saying it, and then you don't do it. It's so hard to explain. Can you do a better job?
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
it's about instant gratification. You've said it now. I'm going to diet for the next 3 months. And
now you don't feel like doing it anymore.
Yeah.
But then,
all right.
But then also, so it's a double-edged sword, because then when you say announcing your goals, do you mean say to the public, dropping it in conversation, or if you
both just saying it out loud?
Because if it's for like an accountability partner, for instance, I think in that sense maybe the good overrides the bad.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a nice balance.
Yeah, if it's like a deliberate thing where you're telling, say, one person, you're not just like telling the world, okay, I plan on like running a marathon or dieting for 3 months or whatever, but you tell one person, you ask them like, keep me accountable for this. I think that might work in your favor more so.
I was going to say there's probably like 3 levels to it. You can either like not tell anyone at all and be on your own. I think that you're losing out on some of the advantages, or you can go onto social media and like tell your few hundred people or 1,000 people, I'm doing this. And then you could, like you say, like you could just have an accountability partner where you still have that sort of pressure. It might not be on the grand scale. Actually, you could argue it has more pressure. Like if I were to tell you, Tariq, I have this goal, can you hold me accountable? Let's have a call every evening, like 5 minutes, just to go over it, make sure that I've stuck to it. There's a chance that's more accountable because it's much more personal than if I were to put it in 1,000. Because maybe like that 1,000 people, like maybe someone notices it, but they're not gonna like DM you and say, hey, Abdul Rahman, you done it? Yeah, you haven't done this.
But you know what, bro? I think I was trying to find
it's sort of fake accountability to a certain extent. But I've definitely, Faisal, like when you asked that, I was like, you know, when you said it was 50-50, I'm like I think I embody the 50-50 in the sense that I am always ripping myself from side to side to like figure out whether it's good to do this. So like in the past I was definitely like I don't want evil eye. Like I'm worried about these things. I'm gonna keep to myself. I share bare minimum, even like to the extent that like I wouldn't share my exam results, anything like that. I'd be like, yeah, alhamdulillah. I would never share anything more like that. But more and more, especially as I saw a lot of success happen from a lot of people as a result of sharing, although I do think there is a lot of oversharing that happens, sharing your plans, sharing your vision has its benefits in terms of growth. And so I'm very conflicted now internally because I find it very hard, because you say like that hadith about Prophet ﷺ who said like do not share, like don't overshare your plans and things like that. At the same time, I'm thinking that's one of the I don't know if I've fallen into that, but like to that extent that is something that can help you grow a lot. And like we've, for example, with Pillars, for example, we've done a lot of kind of talking about our vision and our plan, and that's got a lot of people really excited actually.
I suppose the difference there though is that you have something concrete there, you're building on something, but when it's like a personal
you've
made
goal.
Zero progress with it and it's just an ideal and intention you've had.
Oh, fine. Yeah, okay.
I think it's different.
No, okay.
And I suppose that's where I'm coming from.
realise.
Let's say, for example, you say, oh, we're going to create a prayer app that is ad-free and, you know...
I'm going to get 10 million people.
Right, like
yeah.
it's
yeah,
you
okay,
haven't even
fine.
started the code.
Oh, fine. Okay, if you're saying that, then yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't say it at that
Like
point.
it's not like if you're already in uni and you're like, oh, I'm gonna apply. If you're in uni studying medicine and you're like, I'm gonna be a GP. I want to be a GP. Yeah, you're on your way. It's fine. Like makes sense.
Yeah.
But imagine if like when you're.
Yeah.
You,
But I'll give you a really good example, right? So there's a lot of apps out there where, mashallah, Muslims have like built really like Muslim apps for like mosques, sometimes for like mosque platform, sometimes they're like prayer apps, etc. And to be honest, they do like a pretty good job and they have a decent like UI UX. It might not be the most amazing, but it does the job and it's definitely an alternative to some of the other ones. But like a lot of, so I funnily enough, I got reached out to by a few of them saying like, oh, I built this a few years ago. We got like 1,500 downloads, but it's like kind of like falling flat. Why is that? And I actually think one of the main reasons was from like talking and sharing a lot with the community. Like that was the main difference between maybe us and maybe a lot of these other apps.
yeah, but I think.
But that was after we had.
Yeah.
That was after we had built it. Like
Where I think
Yeah,
I'll
but
agree with you.
why did we build an app and like alhamdulillah get to like where we are now, and they built an app? Of course, you can like talk about like differences in the app, but like largely speaking, it was a lot more to do with the execution. And what was the difference in our execution? So actually, I forgot to say that.
Timed it very well.
But but I also I forgot the main thing, which was a lot of them do it because of their like they want to be sincere. So this is one of the things that scares me the most. Is that I worry that we lose sincerity by sharing this much.
That's a good thing to worry about.
Yeah, and so I really worry, like at the end of the day, like as many people who like download it, if we're not sincere, essentially it doesn't matter what we're doing. Like we might as well not have done it.
Yeah.
And so that is why a lot of the other apps that spoke to me, some of them said it, some of them like I sort of got it from it because of the way they would like talk to me about it. And a lot of the reasons why they didn't do that was because they wanted to stay sincere. They wanted to like a lot of Muslims who give money to charity and they put it as anonymous and they don't tell people about it. In the same way, a lot of people would approach it. They'd build this thing for the community, for Muslims, and they'd like, for example, hide their names from the developer because, you know, like on the App Store you can see who the developer is, and they wouldn't tell people about it. Whoops. And so they would literally do the most to try and ensure they're anonymized. Whereas me and Tariq are in a different position where we're like, our face is actually like, it's important because of the trust factor. If people know exactly who's behind the app, they can feel like they trust the app, especially with what's just happened.
Yeah,
so it's such a difficult balance.
I do think we're talking about two completely different things here, because I think you're talking about something in the professional world.
Yeah.
I think you're talking about brand, you're talking about business.
We're talking about like personal.
Yeah,
goals,
I'm
right?
talking about personal goals.
Oh,
I'm talking about like achievements that are hard to get to, and then when you speak it out, you've got that instant gratification. But where I would meet you halfway, because I'm quite strong on. It doesn't mean I practice it. I'm very bad at practicing, but I think I'm strong on this idea that you should try and keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
With that being said, where I can meet you halfway, I think, Tariq, you might mention it about accountability. I think you have one accountability partner or someone that you trust. For most people, that would be like your wife, your husband, a parent, a brother, someone you're very close to.
Friend.
But then you also add some stipulations, or you add some kind of structure or plan. Then it goes from becoming I'm going on a diet for the next 6 months to I'm going on a diet for the next 6 months. You live with me.
Yeah.
If you see me mess up or you see me grab for chocolate,
Give me a slap.
I need you to help me. Yeah, like tell me that I'm like falling off, kind of thing. Then you've added a plan. So I don't think that's what it falls out. I think my point is when we're just overly vocal about I'm going to do this, then what happens is it almost weakens your character, or maybe even your izzah, because it's like, this guy just always says he'll do something and he never does it.
The majority of people don't necessarily have that problem, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because the majority of people are probably the opposite. Like, they're worried about sharing any of their goals because they're worried about failure.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
not
hard to
think?
say. A
A lot of people don't talk about like their projects. They want to like keep quite quiet until like they've like built it up.
But projects aside, like say.
Yeah, you're very project focused.
Sorry. Okay.
No, but that's
But
a good thing as well. Yeah.
Even like yeah, okay, first. yeah.
All right, let's go for a card. Who wants to go?
Should I go?
Right. You could choose who you want to ask.
Shuffle it next. Can I decide after the card? After I see it?
Yeah.
Okay. I will ask you, Faisal,
Okay.
because you asked me. What are you overthinking?
Revenge.
Oh, I thought like what you were thinking. Revenge. I'm like, what?
Oh
What am
no,
I-
overthink as in him asking you back.
Right now, I'd say I think a consistent thing that I overthink is Freshly Grounded.
Yeah.
I always think to myself like, do we need more of a? Now that you guys are like kind of more involved, I think you guys realize how like that there's elements of it where there's a big lack of structure. There's elements that we've got so much structure, but stuff like the episodes, for example, which is like our bread and butter, they're not very structured. And I sometimes think to myself, should I add structure and this and the other, or like should it be more organized? But Freshly Grounded, or like the creative side of Freshly Grounded, the one thing that I think makes it unique is that I do a lot of the creative based off of a gut feeling.
Which is
I've noticed that.
That's where creativity
and I
stems
just
from.
I can't I think I base it on experiences, social setting at the time, what's going on social media, what's going on, and I go, are you guys up for an episode, kind of thing. And the worry is that because I'm not thinking too much about it, I'm just basing it off of gut feeling and emotions, that I don't want to land myself in a situation where I'm like, I should have thought about that more. Do you know what I mean? But alhamdulillah, so far it's worked, and I think that it adds to the relatability. I think like people can see, they connect with Freshly Grounded maybe because hopefully it's just genuine.
There's personality behind it. It's
just
not some regiment.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like a corporate, like big corporate thing. Like there's elements of it that I have to be incredible. Like yesterday I was signing NDAs and like reviewing contracts. Very boring, very corporate. But generally that's not the case. And also I wouldn't want that ever to seep into the creative. So but I do sometimes think, I'm thinking, like even today I was having a conversation with Cream. I was going, I like doing this specific thing, and my reason for it is just that I like it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and I think that if I enjoy it, the audience will enjoy it.
I think it depends on how you build things up, right? If that's what people are there to expect from you, then it makes sense, right? Like going from like if you know that like I think you once said this, like your goal with a podcast is like something you'd want to listen to yourself.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So if that's the case, then I think you're all right, because that's exactly how you set up. That was your mission. That's what people have like kind of, you've enjoyed the things in the past. So the sort of target listener, if you want to call it that, the sort of person that'd be listening is the same person that you are essentially.
Yeah. My theory is this. My theory is I am the average person, right? Like I'm but that's obviously biased because I am me. I would consider myself a layman, like very average, right? And so let's assume that, and the only data I have to go off of is me. I know myself inside out, and I know my actions, my behavior. I don't know others like I know myself. So if I can make the assumption that I am average and others are like me, then as long as I create content that I would like, others will like it.
Yeah.
Because and that's all I have to go off of. I can be more structured and go off of data, which is much more reliable, but data. I love data, but the one thing that data takes away is the human, human like emotion and thought process and stuff like that. And especially in our world, because in the Muslim world, it's a very big niche that data is not as
utilized.
Not utilized, but data doesn't take into account often the varying like nature of a Muslim's life. The more we capture data, of course it would. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Varying in what sense?
Varying in the sense that like it's a very specific. Islam is a way of life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's I imagine you're talking about like you can't really pin down one specific thing.
It'd be hard to
Muslim
create an algorithm.
listenership.
Yeah, it'd be hard to create an
It's
algorithm.
like you're not
what
just like how like makeup and like productivity, and it's like you can't box it into those like specific things.
I think so.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. Abdul Rahman, your turn.
all right.
You also haven't answered the question yet, so
I haven't, no.
Can he ask himself the question?
yeah, you can, I guess. There's no rules.
I don't know. Can I look through them?
Do you know what? Yeah, there's no rules, I guess. I think the most fun you do get out of the game though is when it's random.
Okay,
I do
fine.
think that,
I'm gonna just take
you
this
can
up
hear
then.
this.
All right. Okay, I'll ask Tariq this actually.
That's good.
What's the emotion you find hardest to express?
Hardest to express.
I think this is a really good question for men.
Yeah.
Because we just not good at expressing.
What emotion do you find hardest to express?
Yeah.
It's a great question for Tariq again. We're really opening him up here.
Yeah. Sorry, Tariq. This is like a psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
I think it would be either sadness or anger. I don't know. I try and like if I am sad about something, and equally if I'm angry about something, like I tend to hide it.
How do you hide it?
Just do. I don't know.
How do you display yourself to the world when you're sad?
Do you
Probably-
walk away from it? Like,
I'll
do you
probably
go
be
to-
more quiet,
Okay.
but I'll probably still be similar to how I am now.
That's amazing. That sounds like Sabrun Jamil to me. Like this idea of being patient and having like a stoic mindset.
How would you like what would your answer be for this? What's the emotion you find hardest to express?
The emotion I find hardest to express, I think, is
It's a hard question, you know.
Yeah.
It needs you. Yeah. It's like you need to think about it.
It can either be as like wide of a scope of emotions as you want.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
small.
it's very hard to say.
Yeah.
I think I'm very emotionally erratic. Not erratic, but I think I'm. It's very easy to see what emotion I'm going through at all times. Yeah, I can't hide my emotions very well.
That's good.
Yeah, but I could still have an emotion that's hard to, for me to what? Express. Perhaps it would be something like, gratitude, maybe.
You find that hard?
Perhaps no. I guess not. But I'm really being forced to think about it, and maybe a bit. But then again, I do have my moments of making sure that I take time out to thank people and stuff like that. I know what emotion I find hard. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I find it hard to be empathetic.
Really?
I can find it hard to be empathetic. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's actually something that probably, like, is quite a general problem.
Yeah.
Empathy. I've actually spoken about this before.
I envy people who are very empathetic.
Do you have
No, but
any
we need
examples?
empathy.
An example of me feeling
Struggling
like
with
I
empathy.
struggle with empathy? Yeah, for sure. Could be like, okay, like for example, on one end, I could feel like maybe I have high expectations of the people around me to be, I don't know, like fast thinkers, like respond, like respond
Like similar
quickly.
to you.
No, I don't know if I'm like that, but the problem is that I think that if I was put into that position, I'll be very angry with somebody who would have those expectations of me. So I think, and I think that's where the only other person who is like that I think that I've seen in my life is my brother Omar, and he's a person who I'm always it's like my kryptonite. I can't match him in his level of productivity or his intelligence or his. I'm not saying that I'm more intelligent than anybody else. I'm different. Even you two, Allahumma barik. I always feel like I'm not cutting it with you guys. Like in terms of
not at all.
conversation.
I feel the same about you too.
No.
So I'm not by any means saying that, but I guess what I'm saying is that I wouldn't even challenge him, right? And so then when he is like that with me, I do feel like upset sometimes, right? Like let's say for example, if he's like, like face, why are you not thinking? Why are you thinking so small and freshly grounded? And instead of me going, yeah, you're right. Like, how can I think bigger? I get upset. Yeah. I take offense. And so I suppose when I'm doing that to others, I'm not being empathetic. When I'm saying, well, why is it that you're not responding? Why do you have to think so hard about it? It's a very easy decision. It's not being empathetic. And also, when I'm in the position, like for example with Omar, I'm not being empathetic to him because he's just trying to make me better. And I've become emotional now. I can't manage my emotions. I'm upset that someone who I see so highly is now like challenging me, and therefore I become insecure and.
Do you like taking criticism like that? We're going to that, aren't we? Like,
we spoke about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, because like it sounds like that, and I feel like generally it's very easy to get defensive.
Yeah.
But that's not an expressed emotion, to be fair.
I think a person gets defensive when they're very passionate about what they do, and I think that 100% of the things that I do, I'm entirely passionate about them.
I think it's more to do with when you start to, if you build your identity on something and someone starts challenging the pillars of like that have built that up. Like the foundations that so what you consider yourself, like what makes up Faisal, what makes up Tariq, what makes up Abdul Rahman, when someone starts to challenge something that you consider as part of your identity, that's like you do feel that as an attack on yourself.
I don't know, man. I don't feel like that. I feel like it's that.
But it's like it's more subconscious.
If for example I was doing something that I'm not very passionate about, I'm doing it because I have to, and someone was to criticize it,
then that would be fine.
I think I'd be fine with it. For example, like let's say for example I take the bins out at home, for example, right? And let's say if my wife, this has happened, has said something like, oh, like sometimes you can go like 2 or 3 days and you haven't taken the bin, or 2 days you haven't taken the bin. We have a very small flat, so we have like one main bin, right? So it pretty much has to be taken out daily. But it's not something I'm passionate about, taking the bins out. And so if someone criticizes and says you aren't doing it regularly enough, or like or something like that, I would never be upset or offended.
Taking the bins out isn't part of your identity, is it?
That's also true. But I'm saying that I guess my point is that I try to live my life in a way where everything I do is because I want to do it. And so therefore a byproduct of that is that I'm extremely passionate about everything I do. So if someone challenges something that I do, I'm passionate about it. So now you're like, it's like I'm riding like a steam train and someone puts a massive halt on it and I'm putting my brakes on. I'm like, I wasn't ready for that. Whereas if I'm just traveling slow and someone's like, oh, that was me, I'm like, okay, I'll just move direction.
I actually think we're saying very similar things.
Maybe.
Honest. Yeah, I feel like being passionate about something means it's something that you consider very important and part of you. So I think we're actually saying the same thing. Yeah.
Abdul Rahman, I'm going to ask you a question now.
All right. Inshallah.
Because you haven't answered one.
It's a very fun game, by the way.
It's nice, isn't it? Kind of because you don't think about these questions.
How many cards are there? Like
there's 100.
But do you know what? It actually like it's a general issue that we have because we're all like so busy with our day-to-day lives. We don't actually have a moment to even like
think about something.
Yeah, reflect on these things because this is. Don't you know? Have you noticed like we're all like very much like trying to stop and think and reflect on like.
And that's what it's meant to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like
it's doing a good job of it.
Generally speaking, we're all very much like doing something and like worrying about the next thing and worrying about like life issues and trying to be productive. And there's not, you know what, like something I'm very, very envious of like people who lived in the past is being able to like just literally, they like stare at the sky, they like stare at the stars and they just like think. And like, even if you look at like the stories of a lot of the prophets, like the prophets in general, they would often be shepherds. That was a very common, and they'd often have been shepherds for very, very long times. Like usually prophethood will come later in their life. Like Prophet ﷺ was about 40, and it's very like characteristic for the prophets to like get their like become prophets or get their revelation later in their lives. And so one thing that's very interesting is all of them have gone through long periods of their lives where they've essentially been very isolated. Like they'll be herding sheep or goats, whatever. They'll be like shepherds. They'll be in the desert. They'll be alone for long periods of time. And that's very good for you just to ponder on life and think about things and think about yourself. And I think that actually builds, like, Allah doesn't like just like suddenly change the person. Allah's given them that pathway. Allah's like made that person go through that experience to shape them to get into the position and get the like sort of characteristics where they are now ready for like revelation, right? And so there's a lot of wisdom behind that, and I think we lack a lot of that actually these days. Is like just literally just taking time out. Like one of the best pieces of advice I got was from a friend. Was like, go on a walk. Don't go with anyone. Just walk, and don't bring your headphones or like anything like that. Just
I find it very hard to spend time with myself.
It's so hard, and something I'm trying to do this summer is being more purposeful.
I imagine, Tariq, you are okay with spending time with yourself.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like even car journeys and stuff like that. So a few weeks ago we were driving to Manchester. I was sitting in silence.
Horror.
I didn't pull out my phone at all. Like
You weren't even listening to anything.
not listening to
Just
anything.
listening to the rain on the car.
Nah,
Just being mindful
I
of
really
it.
struggle with that. How are you, Fawaz? I don't know. I've never known. Can you spend time with yourself? Your mic's off.
I never used to be able to, but I think I've taken the time to try and implement that.
When you had COVID and you were locked in the back room.
That was very hard.
Do you know what? That might be
Very hard.
that might be a reason like a lot of people like the mental health like
I would find
issues,
that hard.
right? Because you're like you're in your room, you're isolated completely. Like
He was in a whole like separate, like
I felt like I was in a prison.
Yeah.
he was in like a separate. He was like in the back house.
Yeah.
oh, they
like,
chucked
there's
you out.
Yeah, there's the house and there's garden. And there's like
They ran
you know, like a
away.
shed converted to a house. That's where he was.
Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like that's quite a nice like.
It's a getaway. Almost.
Yeah, it's a
I think
getaway.
you would like that. But you seem like someone who
For 2 or 3 days, and then the remaining
After
7
that,
days.
yeah. What is it that you were missing in particular? Like, what was it? What was getting to you that you couldn't do X? Like, what is
Just my
X?
freedom. I literally all I could do was walk up and down the room. I had my computer and stuff, and I was mid like approaching exam season. So after I'd done my work, I wanted to do something else to get my mind off the setting. Like I was using the same space to study, the same space to work, and the same space to sleep, and the same place to socialize. I needed a different setting.
So for you, as freedom, it wasn't
just
there. It
freedom,
wasn't you were
yeah.
missing
a specific
company.
thing? Like, what was the
Because
first
I don't
thing
have an
you
issue
did
being in a
after?
confined space.
Yeah,
but as long as
especially
you're
if
with
I'm my
people.
laptop, my internet. But I need to have physical presence.
Well, that's the thing with me as well. Like, I'm fine with. I think it's more so I prefer, not talking. But I'm fine. Yeah, like 2 weeks alone, something like that. That would get to me, like completely alone. But I would definitely prefer like being with someone or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have your question, Abdul Rahman.
Right, I was gonna get a question.
Wait, what would you prefer? Would you prefer being in a room alone for a week or 2, or being in a room alone with one other person? Because what if you get sick of that person, then you can't escape?
Alone,
Yeah.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like you want the company, but what if you could only isolate with one other person, and let's say it can't be your wife, for example, and if something happened, you couldn't get away now.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I would prefer to be alone because the pros, the cons outweigh the pros in that case. Because even though I like spending 90% of my time with people, I do for 10% of the time I do often need a break every now and again. Like, but for me that break is like once every 2 or 3 weeks, just spending 2 hours alone in a coffee shop with my laptop and a coffee, and then I'm just like by myself, and that's sufficient.
If you're with your laptop, are you really alone?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's true.
When we say alone, like, you have to be like completely just connected to technology.
I really struggle with that. I really struggle just being alone, like thinking.
Like alone with your thoughts.
Yeah. I think I did that one. The most recent time I've probably done that is. Okay, there's like I've had in the past few months there was 2 very high stress situations that I was involved in, and it was, I think it was like a lot of work stuff. Maybe I can't remember what the trigger was. I believe it was just like loads of work stress, and like everything's kind of happening at once and stuff. And so my wife would say to me like, you need to just like almost like get away and relax.
Yeah, take a break.
And so I would like try and have a bath. I'm just not a bath person. I just can't. And I would try.
It's like forcing yourself.
And yeah, I'd force myself to have a bath, and I'll be out in
2 minutes.
5-6 minutes.
Really?
And she'd be like, "You already?" I'm like, "Yeah, like it was fine, but like I'm
You
done."
didn't take like technology with you. Like,
No, I didn't. I was eyes closed, thinking myself, but it's very difficult.
I think that's why it's encouraged to go to a graveyard, because in a graveyard you're not really going to do anything else, and you're forced to think because you see the reality.
I don't mind that because I know what I have to think about. I have to think about death,
Yeah.
and I'm naturally thinking about death, and I'm there for 10 minutes. I can think about death. I think just being, like, if I was sat here right now, none of you guys were here, and I was here for an hour, and I didn't have technology. Like I didn't have the Quran, I had nothing. It's just me. It's like, oh, that sounds like awful to me.
Have you guys ever thought about traveling alone?
So
I have had to travel alone, like for work and stuff.
No, but I mean like discover, like not just to go to like a business or a conference or something like that. I mean like going for like just to discover a place, but doing it completely alone.
I hate that. Sounds horrible to me.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds
I
horrible.
really
I think it would
like
be
the
fun.
idea.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'd be concerned about is just like safety. Like if like.
But when
need
you say
someone's help.
going alone, like, is that like staying alone when you're there as well? Like, say
Yeah,
people who
yeah,
go
yeah.
backpacking, they'll often like meet people while they're staying.
No,
in their
I
country.
don't like. I mean like pure like do it completely alone, where you're traveling, you're staying alone, you're literally going to like you can go to coffee shops there. You can like go to like the museums.
I like the idea of sharing those experiences with someone.
Yeah.
I love the idea of sharing those experiences.
I feel like it's more like about like taking that time to like be with yourself, I guess, which is probably why you don't like it. 'Cause you hate that idea.
I don't know why though. I don't know if it's a big. I don't know if there's a big revelation, but I don't think there's something in my childhood that made me want to. I think it's just my personality, and I'm fine with it. I accepted it. It's never caused me any issues.
Yeah.
Listen, your question, Abdul Rahman, let's not avoid it.
Okay,
The question is, where do you feel you need the most support?
To remind myself, I think this is actually a relatively easy one to answer because I thought about it a lot. To remind myself about the real important things in life, which is relationships, like with people and with Allah, of course. I can even now, like I'm in my summer break, I've got like 4 or 5 weeks off. I'm already like 2 weeks into it. And all I've been doing really is like working, admin, that sort of stuff. I have catched up with a lot of people. I've catched up with you guys, obviously, since my exams. And I've done a few like Zooms where I haven't been able to meet up in person. But generally speaking, the thing that I really, really struggle with is like I could easily go through the whole of summer and not like, and if someone doesn't remind me and say you need a break, unfortunately I do have people like that in my life who do tell me like you need a break. But if I don't get told that, I definitely just keep working because I'm very much of the mindset of like I can rest later. Let me just get like I need to build this. I need to get this done. I need to get to this milestone, and then I'll have my break.
Yeah, but you don't give the best of yourself unless you get some rest.
No, but it's not even about that. Like everyone who's made it, and I've listened to like, I've spoken to people, who've like said this, like where you don't ever get to that point. Like that point doesn't exist. Even if you were to get to that point, you'll have another one.
Yeah, you'll never be content.
Yeah, exactly. And so this idea that like I need to like so a few things come up. Like I need to be like mindful of my situation now. Like I need to like experience life now, and I need to also be present with like, for example, my family. And I try and make it like an active effort to sit with my parents when they're eating, even though like I haven't actually grown up doing that very much, except on weekends. Stuff like that, like just taking the time to like. Those are the important things. Relationships, essentially. Relationships with your friends, relationships with your family, with your spouses, etc. Those are the real things. And I think if I don't get reminded, I definitely. I don't know about what you guys think, but that I need support with that. If someone doesn't remind me, I'm going to be lost. Yeah.
It's very easy to think I can deal with bettering my relationships or managing my relationships at later point. Like right now,
I need to.
It's
like the mindset is like right now, what I want to do is I want to build this project. I want to build pillars. I want to get it to a point where it's like something that financially sustains me, and then I'll think about like my family. It's like who knows if like God forbid your family aren't there, like true. And who knows, like your brother my brother might be married by that point and has his own family. He might not have time like to spend with me, so you have to
live in the moment.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And a lot of people, like if you talk about a lot of people's regrets, especially when like for example their family members pass away, a lot of it is centered around like not being able to, like not having spent more time with their mum or dad. So that's something that I think again going back to this idea of like we need more time to reflect, we need more time on my own. And I think, and I'm not like someone who practices as much as I wish I did, but it's something I need support with. Time of my own, and also making sure that I focus on the important things, which in my opinion are relationships. Allah first and then others. Yeah,
that's a very good answer. We'll go to Tariq next.
Oh, for the
same question.
No, for you can pick a card.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay.
I hope it's about you, because there's some cards that are about you. Is this about you?
Yeah, you feel it. You feel it when you read it.
I think it is.
No, it's not.
As in, yeah.
Like it will be something like, what advice would you give me?
Oh, I see.
So keep
Yeah.
going until there's a card about
Okay.
you.
Oh, so keep picking.
Yeah.
Should I
Let's
just,
do a
like-
card about you.
You're gonna pick one out like that.
The first one that's about yourself. So you're asking others something to give you.
Okay, I've got one.
Okay.
What took you the longest to understand about me?
That's such a great one.
Well, who's it directed at?
I think we should both
Me.
answer.
Yeah, if you
Because the context will be so different.
yeah.
Wait, so what's the question again?
So what took you the longest to understand about me? If anything.
Oh,
Do you have
I
something?
don't know actually. What took me a long time? I think that's a hard one for you to answer, to be honest.
No, but that's what's so great about it, because okay, there's I'm going to answer that.
Yeah.
But the reason I think it's a great one is because, like, if I look at something that's about me, for example, it will say, there's one here actually. Do I
That's
see
actually
nothing
stumped me,
validation?
that question.
Do you think I'm good at hiding my emotions, for example? That's something that that's
that-
something that, like, would that if you met someone for the first time, they could answer that and they'd have a different perception.
Yeah, they'd
Um,
have such a different
And
perception.
if you think that there's one here, it's like, okay, here you go. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about me? That would be such a cool question to ask, like, people who have known you for different amounts of time. I'm actually going to ask you both that question next. Let me answer your question. Just ask it again, Tariq. I just forgot it.
Okay.
What took you the longest to understand about me?
I think so. For the record, we've met 3 times.
Yeah.
This is the 3rd time,
Yeah.
and all 3 times have been on camera, haven't they?
Oh,
So
yeah, that's true.
I think that the thing that took me longest to understand about you is, it's hard to say what took me the longest to understand about you, but there's some things I've understood about you now, which I think only now that I've met you 3 times, so like more than once and twice, that I now understand about you. And I think the 2 things that come to mind are, one, your sense of humor. I really like your sense of humor because I think it's different. It's not like the standard sense of humor. It's a really lovely sense of humor.
Thank you.
And then secondly, I think that you're incredibly comfortable accepting who you are, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you say that's true?
Yeah, to an extent.
You
I
are
don't
who
try and
you are.
change myself.
Right. I think that's lovely because I think that's actually rare. I think often we do try and, like, okay, one of the things that I'm self-critical of myself about is that I naturally, depending on who I'm talking to, my tone and my accent changes completely. Even with you guys, like, for example, with Abdul Rahman, I recognize that you pronounce your T's and your S's a lot more than I suppose, like, people I generally speak to. And so I instantly pronounce my T's and S's and
Like,
Do you do that
D's
thing when you're
more.
talking to an American and you start saying things in an American accent?
well, when I speak
It's
to
so embarrassing.
I don't
to
do
make
the
fun of
American
them? Or?
I don't do the
Huh?
American accent, but I do it with, like, someone who probably their English isn't as good. I miss out words and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like if anything, at that point you should be speaking the best English because you need to give them as much as you can. And at that point, like, you break your English up. I don't think that comes from me not being comfortable with myself, but I do think that it's not consistent, and I only see consistency from you. I think that's an admirable trait.
Yeah, that's actually quite true. I feel like, you know how a lot of people like switch up when they're with different people. I
Yeah.
feel like you're quite as far as
Same.
I've seen.
Same with everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I actually think that's quite a noble character.
It is.
Not to switch like between people. Just because it shows that you're quite true to yourself, if that makes sense.
True.
And you're like, I don't know, there's a sense of I don't know what the word for it is, but like authenticity, that's it.
I do think
Yeah.
though that everything with a balance, because I don't think you're not doing a balance. I think you're doing a great. Like, stick to how you are. Don't change your
Okay,
personality.
will do, yeah.
But I'm saying that if somebody was the opposite, I think there's admirable traits about that. Like, for example, we know from the seerah that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would deal with different people in different ways, depending on their situation, depending on their personality, and so there is space for you to be a bit like a comedian. You know, I think.
Well,
Chameleon.
the comedian.
Chameleon.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
gonna say comedian because I was like, there were
But
like
God, it is a comedian.
there was a Sahabi who used to always prank the
Yes, I saw this.
the companions, and like the Prophet like liked it.
It was like
He
Nur
loved-
Iman or something,
I
right?
can't remember.
Yeah.
I've not
Sorry,
seen that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I get one?
I think it's you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question of a similar vein where it's like,
Yeah. Let's do a question of
Yeah,
similar
I'm
veins.
ready.
A question that's about yourself. Go with that.
Oh, about yourself.
So we can scrutinize your character.
That's a big question.
You have to go with the first one that's about you.
No, because it's not about you.
No,
None of
the
these
first
are
one
about-
that is about you though.
that hasn't been about. Like about me myself.
Yeah. So the question
Okay,
will be
fine.
worded in something like this one, like blah, 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 about me, or what do you
Okay,
guys
this
think?
one says, "Do you need to forgive yourself more easily?"
No, that's not that about. That's not about you.
as in that's something
do
you
you
would
mean?
ask. So it's
That's
like,
something that you would ask someone else.
Yeah.
But you
One
want to
that
find a
has the
question that's
word me.
worded.
Oh,
Yeah, one that
I
has
read
word
that
me.
towards myself though.
oh
Yeah.
no.
They
So
can
one
be
that you would
subjective, I
ask
guess,
us to answer about you.
It will say the word me or I, and they don't
All
know.
right, all right.
Should I try and find from this deck as well?
So something for you guys to say about me.
I think this might be one.
Describe your ultimate cheat meal. That's a funny one. Okay.
Ultimate cheat meal.
Yeah. if you could give me a piece of advice on anything, what would it be? I was actually going to ask you guys that
Oh, that's
question.
amazing. That's such a
Yeah.
good
That's a
question.
good. That's a good question, but it's also
I feel like you kind of.
But I
already
want you
answered it
guys
as
to
well.
actually answer as honestly and as directly. Well, it doesn't need to be direct. You can soften it up, but be as honest as you want
That's hard. That's hard for
on
me. but I
camera
think-
as well.
Yeah.
I feel
No,
like
yeah,
it
it's
ties
hard.
into your answer to the previous question. I can't remember what the question is, but you were talking about. Yeah, it was. What do you think you need to be reminded about, right? And you were talking about like
Yeah, that's true.
focusing on the things that matter, relationships. And I think, yeah, if I could give you advice now, I
Go
would
on.
say to focus on it.
To focus
To
on
focus
it.
on those things, take more breaks. Because I mean, I've noticed this from us working together. Like you're always on it, mashallah. It's an
Yeah.
amazing thing, like amazing trait to have.
I think yeah.
But yeah, switching off and like not always being on it, I think will do wonders for you as well.
Yeah, it's hard to tell yourself that, right? That like actually taking a break's gonna make things better. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but yeah, I'll try.
It's hard for me because obviously we have not known each other for long, but again, I think that's the beauty of the game. But okay, if I were to give advice to a person who I haven't known for long, I would look at what advice I would give myself, what general advice I would give myself, and apply it to somebody else. But there's a lot of specific advice I'd give to myself that I've not seen those characteristic traits in you. Like for example, indecisiveness. You don't seem like an indecisive person. Are you an
I
indecisive
think
person?
It depends on the topic.
Fine.
If it's about a design,
Yeah.
I
Maybe.
definitely
I
very
wouldn't say it's indecisive though. I think it's more so changing your mind. Like indecisiveness,
my
I
mind
think
a
would
lot.
be like if you're given 3 or 4 options or whatever, you can't choose which
Yeah.
one. I think you don't struggle with choosing one, but then maybe later down the line, like you will go back on that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that either.
But I think that's often usually for like a data-driven reason, right? Like I'd have got feedback on something, like, or we would have done a poll, and like people have suggested like maybe not this. I'd say that's probably the main reason.
Yeah, probably.
But I agree with you. Yeah.
It's very hard to say because I also think that one of my go-to advice to anybody would be you can never like study yourself enough and know yourself enough, and the more you know yourself and you understand yourself and your insecurities and work on yourself, then the more leverage you have and the less somebody else could find holes in you because you're already self-critical of yourself. But you seem like a very self-aware person, and I think that if you're not, then my advice would be as self-critical as you can. But I do think there's a you can go too far with that. I've only recently made that conclusion that you can go too far with trying to be self-critical or self-aware. And I think maybe sometimes I go. That's such a like interview question. Like, what is your negative thing? Oh, I'm too critical of myself. But I do think that I've now shadowed onto the dangerous / depressing / I've gone too far with it side.
I've got a good question for you guys off the top of my head. What is something that you guys like think about, or like you like something that you guys think that the majority of people haven't caught on to?
So what do we think about that we think that the majority haven't
Yeah.
Think about like in general about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world. Or
Keep it as general as you want. Yeah.
That's a good
Like
one.
essentially something like like you think people aren't in tune with it, haven't really.
That's a very hard question.
Yeah, it is a hard question. Do you know who came up with it? Peter Thiel.
What would your answer be?
I don't know. I
don't know if there is something. I feel like there are enough people for everyone to have thought about everything.
Yeah, and
like,
it feels like a very arrogant thing to answer.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually quite happy that I didn't. I can't
Yeah,
think
same.
of anything. I feel like if I did have an answer, it would show a lot about my personality. Like I'm like.
yeah, it's
like
like
I
when you
feel
ask,
like I have a
does anyone
secret.
else feel this way about that? And it's like, inevitably
Yeah.
there are people who do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
say.
Don't know.
I still feel like I should give you advice because it only makes sense to answer all of the questions, but I honestly can't think of anything. I'm trying to base it off of the experience that we've had.
I think it's very hard for you to like answer that based on like the time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get one for you though.
Fine. That's fair. I feel like I failed.
When was the last time you cried?
Oh, it's meant to be about you.
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
we were
I can give
moving
you
on.
that. Yeah, it's up to you. You can play it how you want to play it. If you want to ask that one, you can ask that one, but I can't remember. I'd have to give it some thought.
I can remember.
You can.
Yeah.
Go on.
It was it was like the week before Ramadan. What month was Ramadan? April.
That's why a while ago. So
Yeah.
You do not cry very often.
I usually cry like once a year, but when I do, it's
Really?
like
Do you?
Yeah. If even that, there was
Wow.
like a 2 year.
I'm very
thing
interested
where I
in
didn't-
this because
I never believe somebody when they say that.
I can say we're lying.
No, you don't need to.
really, I think like women tend to like cry more often, but I actually think that's an enviable characteristic that we should probably be.
Yeah, no, I do definitely like whenever I do cry, it's always like a cathartic experience. I think it's like I'll cry like quite
No, but
badly
is
for
it-
like 2 minutes, and
is
then
it-
I'm.
Is
happy
it because
after.
of like someone's like passed away? That's
Oh, I remember the last time I
Ah.
cried now.
Yeah.
I'll
Or
tell you
is
what
it
you
more of a emotional,
So-
like religious experience, spiritual?
No,
experience?
so it was. Do you remember when I broke my thumb?
Oh yeah.
So it wasn't like crying from pain or anything.
Yeah,
but-
this is starting to sound like a throwing my dummy out of the pram kind of situation. I mean, why that?
I can't code.
I mean, that was literally like part of it. I mean,
Really?
so Pillars was gaining momentum. It was literally the same day.
You thought it was going to be a huge hit.
It was the same day
Fine.
that like the widget tweet went out, and that was the tweet that kind of like it went viral.
Yeah.
I guess.
I didn't realize
Those are
that really
people-
upset you.
No, so it wasn't just. It was like a culmination of things. So I broke
Yeah.
my thumb. I was playing football. I was a keeper as well.
Ah,
That's the second
well-
time in my life I've broken my like wrist or hand, just broken a bone in goal.
Oh my god.
And I went to A&E and I waited for like 2-3 hours. They told me it was broken, and they said specifically you can't type. And that really hit me because like obviously we were planning on like.
Wow, that shows
launching-
how passionate you are. About
Yeah, I
it.
was
That's
just about to say,
amazing.
I mean-
I can answer that other question. Something I
Yeah.
didn't know is like how passionate you are about pillars.
I mean, it was a mix of it was like so there was that. I thought, okay, there's nothing I can do now. I mean, I ended up typing
Yeah.
anyway, like against the doctor's advice.
Your thumb's
There was
alright,
also-
right?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
kind of like I still have a bit of pain, but
Really?
yeah. But I was also in like a very good place at the time, like prior to breaking it. I was like running often. I was working out.
It's like a huge like pause.
It
on
was a hit.
everything
Yeah,
you're doing.
I felt as if like I might become useless or something. I wouldn't be able to code. I wouldn't be able to exercise. They told me no more running or something, and I thought I might like, yeah, my mental health would go like in the bin as a result.
It's really interesting what you said there is like I felt like I could become useless because something that I can't remember where I saw this, but they were essentially talking about what people really want is to feel. Oh, I was on a call with someone and they were saying how like what people really want is to feel valued, and they want to feel like they're wanted. Like they want to know that like their skills are in demand, and that gives people a very like strong sense of like purpose and like they want to do it. And maybe like that moment was like you feeling like I might not be useful. Or my
Yeah, or like you're letting people down, maybe.
yeah.
Partly, yeah, like everything I had been doing at that point kind of required my thumb. I mean, running didn't
Yeah.
require it. Like,
Yeah,
but,
can't
but I was
gym,
told like,
can't code.
yeah,
Why did you go and goal the day of the launch? Yeah.
yeah, it was like
I
a
remember when
rotation,
you
man.
called me
Yeah.
and you were,
Yeah, bro, I was so hurt.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's amazing. That's really admirable, honestly. That's a great answer. Okay, my question.
Wait, I want to
You were
ask
gonna
you the
answer,
question.
yeah, the
No,
last
you
time
have to
cried.
ask me a question.
I'll answer
I
it.
thought you were
but
gonna
I'm
answer
very
the last-
interested in everyone answering
Yeah.
this. I think it's
This
important
question.
to
Yeah.
answer
Okay,
this question. Yeah.
mine was a lot more like generic. Like, so basically, what happened is it was a couple weeks back, and it was really out of the blue. It came out of nowhere, and I think that's when like it shocked me. So what happened is I remember where I was. I can't remember specifically what I was talking about, but I was at home in the kitchen speaking to my wife, right? And it was morning time, and we were. I was telling her about something to do with my granddad, right? So me and my granddad were best friends. I wasn't close to anybody as I was to my granddad. And I often tell my wife stories about my granddad because she'd never seen him. And to give you context as to like how loving and amazing he was, he would do things like he would remember when my university exams are, and just little things like that. He'd call me the day before exam, how you feeling, are you okay, like you would do fine. And straight up, he would know time my exam. Straight after my exam, I'd get a call from him, how did it go? And this is a Pakistani old school like man who's very strict with his kids. He's not like a standard like an emotional person, but he had that connection with me. And that's just an example, but there's many examples. And often it upsets me that he was very strong in religion, and it often upsets me that he never saw me as a religious person or like someone who cared about religion or was into his faith. And sometimes I think to myself, like, if only he had seen and stuff like that. He used to sometimes struggle to try and like drag me to the mosque and try and teach me Quran, and I would, But what upset me that day is I was speaking to her, and I can't remember what I was saying, but I started speaking about him, and I was just like, I just went off. And, when you're passionate about something. I said, and then he did this, and before I knew it, tears started rolling down.
Emotions just took over.
So it wasn't like, but it was like I started welling up. I was like, oh man, and that's why I don't like talking about my granddad. I'm like, because I know it, all of a sudden it like ignites this stuff, and I would rather do other things like remind myself to give a sadaqah on his behalf and stuff like that than talk about him too much, because that doesn't really do too much. It's only gonna. But
it's very practical, but it's alright to have that feeling.
It shocked me because I started telling stories. I think I started telling stories about how he would call up the radio station every morning or night, and he would in his old age when he was like almost bedridden, and he would listen to LBC, which is like
I listen to LBC.
Yeah, and he would call up this like the late one, and he'd like tell jokes in Punjabi. Like, it was this thing. It was just so funny, and I was like laughing about it, and then it like brought a tear.
Did they ever cut him off? Or like?
No, they would like he'd be like a regular caller, like like this uncle. So it was lovely, but that was a few weeks back.
Yeah.
I was like reminiscing. It was all very out of the blue.
Like the emotional connection, like with your granddad, obviously had an impact.
Yeah, it always feels like a story unfinished, but you're content with how Allah decrees things. I feel very happy knowing that he died a Muslim, and that there's a chance that we will meet in the afterlife, and so on and so forth. That's always very beneficial. But I do reflect on my relationship with him a lot, and which is nice. Yeah. Okay, my question. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about me? Let me just do a time check. All right, we've got about 15 minutes. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about me? It would be nice to get this from different perspectives, because you guys have known me the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Fawaz has known me for 5 years. So I'd be interested to hear from his perspective as well. Yeah.
I would say...
Do you know what? Do you guys... Yeah.
I actually think I know that, like... it's something that you spoke about, and like now that we've spoken a few times, I definitely see this in that you're not really... And I guess it speaks to what we were talking about earlier. Your priority is to make sure that you don't care about numbers, basically. And I think that you are very much you're very much focused on making sure that you are being the most authentic, you're creating value, you're making something that people really want to listen to. And that's your like utmost priority, and I think that's something that some people, I don't want to say everyone like thinks that, but some people might misunderstand about you and about the brand that you built. So I think that's probably the thing that I'd say. Like, obviously this is probably something that's more, because we've only like you say, we've only like met 3 times, so a lot of it is going to be based on that stuff. I'm sure there are deeper things that we might discover in the future, but I'd say that's one, if that makes sense.
That's very kind. That's very kind.
No, I genuinely think it. I think like, by the way, I think like it's a recipe for success, because I think these things are like, they match up, right? Like when you think about like what your audience wants and what and thinking about providing value, everything works itself out. But I don't think a lot of people think that. Like, they fixate on the numbers, they fixate on that, they fixate on like inflating growth, like artificial methods, things like that. Whereas you're like much more like, let's do this like an authentic way. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, at least like, and what you said, actually, maybe it was the first podcast we did or the second one, you said something like, I just like, everyone's like thinking about world domination, but like at the end of the day, like maybe Allah's like kind of decreed for me like to only be like for this level. And I think that also like create, like when I thought about that made me think like, yeah, like we need to like stop thinking like I need to have this like worldwide impact. Maybe this is like the impact and this is good and I'm helping this number of people, or I'm like able to like provide value for this number of people, and I don't need to like be like this. I think your example is like a coffee, like I don't need to be like this worldwide coffee maker. Like I can just be like a coffee maker in my local town, and people could absolutely love my coffee shop. And yeah, exactly. I make people's day. They come to work. There's a human connection there, and I think like basically, I'm very, as you can imagine from our conversation, but I'm very much in favor of these like human connection sort of things, and I think that that's something that I definitely, it can often be misunderstood by mashallah successful brands, because obviously people think that you've got to a certain point, they think you're not really you're just thinking about how to grow, but actually no, there's like that
no growth happening.
It's like authenticity.
It's like no, actually even like people who have like got like done really well are still thinking about like, I just want to be genuine. I'm not like thinking about, oh, how can I get to 1 million subscribers or something like that.
I mean, I would say, so like I'm sure people who actually like watch and listen to the podcast wouldn't have this assumption about you, but I think when it comes to say podcasters in general, they would assume that they put on like a persona for the podcast, or they behave very differently on camera and off camera. But I would say definitely like after meeting you, and
you act the same.
You act exactly the same.
Really,
like,
I didn't
on
know
camera
that.
and off camera.
I thought I acted differently.
No, I wouldn't say, but maybe we haven't spoken enough off camera.
No,
we have. Like
I
afterwards,
actually,
we still talk for a bit.
I feel like you carry yourself.
It's like, and I say this to everyone. Like I really admire it, mashallah.
Oh, that's very kind. That's awfully kind.
The same on and off.
Oh, that's very
Wait,
kind.
what was the question again?
I remember yours. Just keep complimenting. What do you think is the most misunderstood?
Yeah, I
thing
feel
about
like that lends itself to complimenting you. I like thinking, are we being too generous to you?
I think it gets dangerous when you start fishing.
People think you're great.
Yeah,
and
because obviously,
exactly.
obviously there's like, you need to like safeguard from over complimenting someone.
Of course. I think that comes with being self-aware, though. Again, I'm so much of what I believe is to do with being self-aware, because you know, Sheikh Muhammad Tim, he said something to me once that was very powerful. He said that as a person you need to be somebody who criticism and praise have the same effect on you, which is essentially nothing. Like you don't get overly excited by praise, and you don't get overly depressed by criticism. I think it's a very important thing to be.
I've got a few good questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Scanning through them.
Fine, 10 minutes.
Okay, so it's this one. Who haven't you called with? Oh, sorry. Who haven't you connected with in a long time? Call them.
That's hard to do on spot. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Right
You
now.
can't.
Yeah.
I feel
the
like
idea is call them right
you
now.
can leave the call them bit, but I'm interested in like the first part. Who should you have connected with that you haven't for a very long time?
I can think of someone.
You don't need to say exactly the person, but you can like say like what that person is, or like meant to you or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think it's too deep if I say who.
Okay.
It's my cousin from like Pakistan. It's like we don't.
Right
really
now, everybody's in shock that you're Pakistani because we haven't announced that yet.
Oh, we're waiting for like a big.
He's
reveal.
not Egyptian.
This guy's
And his name is not Mohammed Salah.
But no, it's we just don't talk like
Talking
over the
back.
phone or
Calling back.
over text. But I kind of prefer it that way because and he said this to me, like there was this one time where when I was in Pakistan with him, we stayed up, like we watched the sunrise on like an overpass, and he said to me like
As you do in Pakistan.
and you do as you do in Pakistan, but he said like, you're gonna go home and we probably won't talk until like the next time we see each other, but that's okay because when we do see each other, we're gonna have so much to like, talk
It's
about.
like special.
That's so
And
kind.
I prefer that. Yeah.
Kind. I mean, that's so.
I probably will call him because it has been like a few years.
I value those sorts of friends.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And like
That's amazing.
people in general who like don't see it as like you being neglectful, just like they recognize that you're generally busy
Yeah.
and they like value your time when you are with them.
Yeah, but I also prefer that so much more as well. Like, I think these would be very different conversations if we were having like if we were talking frequently, say over text, and then we meet up in person, because it's like you've already exhausted all the like topics almost.
Do you have that? I think going back to what you were saying earlier about like you're worried about like not being able to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, maybe that's my worry.
I don't think that's ever a thing. Like you
Yeah.
can never really run out of topics and conversations to have. You can maybe like have a brief pause, but in reality, like there's so much you can talk about.
Well, conversation is definitely an art, though, because I think you can be good at it and you can be bad at it. I don't think anybody here is.
You're very good at it. Like
I don't think
we come
so.
onto the podcast and we're like, Faisal, we're like, what are we talking
We're
about
just
today?
waiting
And
for you
Faisal's
to,
like,
like,
we'll figure it
boost
out
us.
as we go. Like, we're like, Faisal, are you sure?
Yeah.
And then it just
write
like
some
works,
notes.
and it always works itself out, which is kind of
There's always something
evidence
to talk about, isn't
to
there?
what I'm saying to you. Like, I feel like there's always things that you can talk about.
That's true.
Yeah. Not that you should talk about everything. That's another thing.
Here's a good question for both of you guys. So it's gone away from the personal now. It's back to a conversation that we're comfortable with. What is one repeating problem you can automate or eliminate today? Automate or eliminate? I mean, it could be personal as well, I guess. Automate or eliminate. For me, I instantly think of work. And I think, well, there's so many elements of Fresh Uganda
Or
that I
just
can
like
still automate.
automate it.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I have no idea.
But let's make it
it's a very
personal.
pillars answer. I don't want to give a pillars answer. Like, we just got our approval for Twitter developer account.
Okay.
So what that means is essentially we can start doing cool stuff with our Twitter account.
Like plugins and stuff.
I
I don't know how
automatic
to
essentially
response.
we get access to the like API. I don't want to go technical, right? But the point is, what it means for people is when they DM us.
Is Twitter's API not readily available?
No, you have to apply.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but we've got approval now. And so what, have you ever DM'd a Twitter account? I think I used to do this with a TFL account where you can like find out the availability of like your train. So like essentially it's a chatbot. You know what a chatbot is like when you can, and essentially we can have that in pillars.
Oh, amazing.
So a lot of the questions that we get, like for example, like someone's for some reason stop getting notifications or the adhan is not, they're getting notifications but the adhan's like they can't hear it, or their qibla for some reason is like slightly off. And so we can we can create it because there's so many DMs that we can't get through all of them at the same time because just me and Tariq, and so that'd be quite cool. So I'd love to automate that. That's my goal actually over the next 2 days.
That sounds like you're on your way to doing it.
Yeah, as in now we've got approval, I'm gonna figure it out this weekend.
What about you, Tariq?
What was the question again? What's a recurring?
What is one thing that you can automate or eliminate? What is one repeating problem you can automate or eliminate today? Is there anything in your life that you feel like you could eliminate?
the widget task list.
Oh yeah, 100. That's going on at the moment.
No, we're nearly done.
What about in your personal life?
In my personal life,
Can you automate or eliminate anything?
I don't know. Before you said personal life thing, I was gonna say something like waking up late. I could just download a better alarm clock.
That's a good one.
I mean, yeah, like have you heard of an app called Alarmy?
No.
So it's really good, and I used to have it, but I deleted it.
What does it
because
do?
It was too like overbearing. They just have loads of different ways for you to set an alarm, and loads of different ways for you to turn it off. So one thing is like you have to scan a barcode to turn the alarm off, and there's no way to turn it off unless you scan that barcode.
Any barcode.
Any barcode.
Does this work on Apple?
You set what's So you set like what barcode you have to scan.
Like something in your fridge.
I had done it so it was like the shampoo bottle. So by the time it forces me out of bed, I'm already in the bathroom, so I can like shower and stuff like that.
That is smart. What I would do is I'd get the shampoo bottle and I'd put it right next to my bed.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have it on an Android, and on the Android that I had it on, you could remove the battery. So when I was just super tired, I would just remove the battery. There was another thing where
iPhone excels.
Yeah, iPhone you can't remove the battery, so I couldn't do that.
That's
And
really good.
also-
That alarm me. I don't have trouble waking up. If I did, I would
Yeah.
definitely use that.
Yeah, I mean there was one time, this was in sixth form, where my method wasn't scanning a barcode. It was like I had to shake my phone 20 times to wake me up, and I just couldn't be bothered. So I took the battery out. I go to sixth form.
I'm seeing a recurring theme here.
So I took the battery out. I go to sixth form. I'm on my way. I'm on the bus, and I put the battery back in. and the phone turns on, and I got a notification from Alarmy saying like, "Oh, you went against the rules. To punish you, you have to shake the phone like 1,000 times now." Something ridiculous like that.
Access to it.
As in, not to get access to the phone, to turn off the alarm. Maybe not 1,000, maybe like 200 or something.
So essentially,
but I was just on the phone, like just shaking the phone, like the whole
Oh no!
and it was still going like.
I've heard
blaring
of stuff
loud.
like you have to do like answer a maths question. Or something.
Yeah, I used to do that as well.
Who
But
the developer did that, and he was
Yeah,
just like,
it's
"I'm gonna
amazing.
add another zero
with
onto this." Like,
with the multiplication one, so this was, I think it was in Pakistan or it was somewhere. I was traveling with family, and I somehow slept through the alarm, and my sisters had to just like take the phone from me and do the maths for me. They were trying to
Like,
like
so they're
frantically
writing
turn
like
it off.
calculator.
But they were doing it. They were tired as well.
and that's how they got an A-star in the
Yeah. Oh no.
because of Tariq's app.
Yeah, so to eliminate
cool
that
app.
problem, I should just download Alarmy again.
You should.
Fine.
I have a smart bulb in my bedroom, and
A what, sorry?
a smart bulb.
Oh, okay.
And
is
my-
this, Philip Hue,
And this one's not Philip Hue. I'm not that posh.
because no, just
Philip
generally-
Hue is like the posh version.
No, I'll tell you a good hack.
Okay.
Have you ever come across? Oh, sorry. Carry on your story. 'Cause I don't
No, I'm interested in hack.
Camel. It's an extension.
Okay.
You can essentially tell it when a specific price on a website, like on Amazon, drops. And so I've done that because like stuff like Philip Hue, you're right, they're very expensive, but they have these drops where they like drop, but like they're like 40% of their actual original price, and they become really good value. So what I do is when I don't need something urgently, I go onto Camel. I find the product that I need. I tell it like, "Oh, tell me when it gets to this price." So the price that I think it's like worthwhile getting, and then I just leave it because I don't need it urgently. And then one day I'll get a random email saying it's hit this price.
So the websites will come.
It tracks the price on Amazon for the thing that you're.
Oh, it's an app. It's a Chrome extension.
It's like a Chrome extension to help you, so that whenever you're on the Amazon
Fine.
page, you just click it. But it's a website as well that you can go to. And the point is that it's very good to.
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
That is interesting.
sorry. Carry
But
on
well,
your-
I've already got my smart bulbs, and I don't think I'll change them because they do everything that Philips Hue I guess would do.
fine.
But essentially, one of the ideas that I had when I had the smart bulb was to set it on a timer so that every day at Fajr the light in the room comes on. And my wife didn't let me, so no, we don't do that.
I've got
End of the
like
story.
Philip. I absolutely love home automation.
I love home
It's
automation.
really
Yeah.
okay.
Have you
This,
seen what Mark
this can be an
Zuckerberg is trying
episode.
to do?
What?
No,
As in he's got a project. I think it might be like Java.
we're back
or
on
something.
tech, but
We are back on tech, but
It's
it's
fine.
like he's trying to make a
It's
fully
the last 5 minutes.
fully
Let's just
automated.
check it out.
yeah, go
Like a
for
fully
it.
automated home, like fully smart home, every single thing.
No,
in
but
the
sometimes I see them like why really encourage because you see these really cool stuff, but you're
Mm.
like this house is like 10 million pounds.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Did you see the one where someone was controlling their sink with their phone?
No. I was like, when would I ever need that? But like the really cool solutions are the one which integrate really nicely. So I've done it in my house. Like I've like literally like transformed our house as much as possible, and I've like put lots of Philip Hue or like other smart bulbs into the house. And one of the really big hacks is from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, the light in like our office area starts to dim until 10 o'clock where it switches off completely. And it actually is like, you know, the problem when you're sleeping and you're like on a computer and there's artificial light and you just stay awake.
Yeah.
And what you find is that it gets to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, to like in the morning, and you essentially sleep very late, and then it ruins the next day for you. What this has done is like made me very, very tired by 10 p.m. And then I actually want to go to sleep because I've got rid
So
of.
what you're saying is that from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. you're in the office every day. I think we have a bigger problem here.
No. When I say in the office, I mean like our like study area. But I'm like studying,
Oh,
right?
fine.
So it's encouraging me to go because what I could easily do is if the lights were like all on full blast, artificial light definitely like is one of the reasons
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like flipped our
Blue
like.
light.
But do you know why? Do you know the science behind it?
Yeah, the blue light.
As
Well-
in, it releases not
But
adrenaline.
right, but
yeah.
but do you know about why it affects your those I think neurons or whatever in your
it
brain?
targets the same receptors that your like eye detects light with.
Yes.
Sorry, sunlight.
So I the other day I listened to a podcast, one of Tim Ferriss's recent podcast, which is with this I think he's like a sleep expert or something, right?
Oh, was it?
And he speaks about this exact thing.
Matt Walker.
Maybe I don't know the
Matthew
name.
Walker.
Did you listen to the episode? See, did you
Yeah.
see how I said episode? I said episode. I just my accent changes because Abdul Rahman talks very posh, and so now I've caught you.
Episode, you said
Episode.
it normally, man.
I said episode
Episode.
instead of saying episode. I don't know. Anyway,
Queen's
so
English.
less than a minute, I'm gonna
Explain it to
just
us.
finish this up. Yeah, I'll explain very quickly because I don't know the correct term, so I'm gonna give a very bad description of it. He says that these receptors or neurons or whatever it is that's in your brain that are sensitive to light and therefore they keep us up and they ruin our sleeping patterns and stuff. That exactly, what was that?
Circadian rhythm.
Circadian rhythm, that's what he said. Those receptors in our brains are highly sensitive at nighttime, but them same receptors are highly, what's the opposite of sensitive?
Desensitized.
Lowly sensitive.
Yeah, like they require a lot more activation in the day.
The high threshold.
Right. So he's the hack to it is first thing in the morning, or like in the first within the first like few hours in the morning. So let's say you wake up at 7, maybe around 9 a.m. or something. You should expose yourself to a lot of sunlight. So let's say you leave the house, don't wear sunglasses, expose yourself to a lot of sunlight. And what that does is that increases your energy for that point of time in the morning. And it should be about 14 hours or 16 hours before you sleep again at night. So it should be very early in the morning, around 9 a.m. But the reason that you shouldn't look at your phone first thing in the morning or a computer first thing in the morning is because that your phone and your computer doesn't radiate enough of that light to trigger those senses, whereas the sunlight does. So really, you got two options: either first thing in the morning, expose yourself to sunlight, or windows. Get one of those sunlight those light boxes. Yeah, those lamps that kind of simulate sunlight. However, at night time, just your phone is enough because those sensors are so sensitive. Just your phone is enough to just blare those sensors at night time, and therefore everyone's asleep.
Two things I would really recommend. If it is Matthew Walker that
I can check now.
If it was Matthew Walker, I would definitely recommend reading his book Why We Sleep. It's such an amazing book.
Okay.
I've heard that.
Yeah, that's really good. But another thing for nighttime, if you do still want to use your phone, like blue light filters don't work that great. Night shift isn't amazing. What I do is I have a pair of like really bad-looking orange glasses that just filter all the blue light.
But why
it
is
helps
that?
so much.
It was Dr. Andrew Huberman.
Oh, okay.
He's a neurobiologist and talks about optimizing sleep.
Okay.
Also, can I just say he said about these blue light reflection things. Sorry for us. I know like we're cutting it fine.
That they're not as good. Or?
He said the blue light thing. He said we live in a world now where everything's like, that blue light. It's like fashion. But he said those blue light glasses things are really bad for you in the mornings. Because of the fact that you need those senses activated.
Oh no, but you wouldn't use them in the. Oh no, so I'm talking about like a dedicated one. So I only wear it at like 9 p.m.
Yeah,
they're like. So I think the ones he's talking about are you can get your normal glasses like you're wearing now, but with a blue light filter. But I have literally it's a pair of bright orange glasses that I wear only at night time.
I would love to see you in those. Can you wear them the next episode?
I'll bring them next time.
A quick one. The thing on your iPhone where you can change the night shift, is that effective?
Not as good.
Oh, it's not.
No. But you should still use it.
It's still something.
Oh, fine. Okay. Yeah. Guys, Jazakallah khair. Once again, another episode in the bag. This one was live streamed. We didn't, alhamdulillah, do anything hopefully too catastrophic live. I didn't even keep an eye on the chat or anything, but I think people hopefully enjoyed it. We got some. I'll just read something out here. Really enjoyed the episodes of the trio, contrast in personality and great conversation. Would love to see more. Also, comment from. I'm just trying to see anyone who's mentioned anything about the episode. Detox is amazing. Farad says.
Social media detox.
Yeah. Okay, someone said that's a very relatable anxiety. The anxiety of feeling like you're boring. Enjoyed the discussion. Shout out to Pillars app. Nice. And
can I give a shout out?
Really good. Yeah, of course.
I promised a friend that I would shout out legit CS bros.
Wow.
I promise.
What is that?
What is that?
It's just a group chat of like Muslim.
Oh, fine.
CS students at UCL.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Shout out to Legit Studios, though. I think that was what it was. And with that being said, we'll see you next week. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.